On last week's episode, I left Guatemala with Esther after nearly 1 year in the boatyard.
We're coming up into shallow water now. We're already seeing 7 feet on the depth sounder. We're almost in 10 feet of water. I think we made it. That was a little stressful for a second.
After clearing the shallow bank between Livingston and the open ocean, we set sail, heading for Utilla. 3 days later, we arrived.
There's Utilla.
But I won't be staying long. This week, I drop off Esther.
Bye.
And then head back out to sea.
Well, I better get myself comfortable because I'm going to be on this tack for at least 4 to 5 more days.
So on the last day of our sail, my sail to Utilla, the strapping that attaches the mainsail right here at the very top of the main to this car right here, it broke. So I don't know if maybe I just put it on too quickly and didn't notice that it was twisted, and then it was chafing on stuff and ended up ripping through. But I'm gonna have to re-sew this on. Something I love about this way of life is all the different skills that I've had to learn. Like sewing. I never thought I would learn how to hand sew anything. But when things like this break on the boat, it becomes a necessary thing to know. Nowadays with the internet, you can learn pretty much anything, and every little skill learned gives me a bit more confidence in myself and the boat. I bring this up because what I'm really trying to say is, if there's something you've been wanting to do, but you think there's a required skill set you need to have before you get started, forget that notion. I moved on to Dacia 6 years ago having no clue what I was doing. I learned through trial and error, and by just having the willingness to suck at something at first, you'll give yourself the opportunity to learn a bunch of new skills. So yeah, if there's something you've been wanting to do for a while, just go and get started at it. You usually have to suck at things at first before you can get better at them. And if you're interested in sharing about it, let me know in the comments what that new skill you're trying to learn is. I'm assuming if you're watching this video, maybe it might be sailing. Anyways, now with the sail fixed, I'll stop with this little motivational monologue and we can get back to the episode. Nice hunchback.
I need to crawl.
Well, I've been in Utilla for a day. It's time to go. I'm dropping Esther off and we'll be leaving here in a couple hours.
It's very heavy.
I got it. I just checked out. Like I said, Esther's staying. And that went kind of interestingly again. They did my paperwork wrong yesterday, so they had to change all of that again. Luckily, I'm just checking out of Utilla. If I had sailed over to Roatan or something, it might have been more difficult. But adios. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Alone again. Well, hopefully we got enough wind to leave here. Sucks I was only able to stay in Utilla for 1 day, but the weather window I have to get up to Florida looks like potentially the only one I've got for quite a while. So when it comes to sailing with no engine, when the weather calls for it, you just have to leave. And the reason for this is the wind always turns clockwise in the northern hemisphere, usually, unless there's some weird stuff going on. But when a front comes down, the wind clocks out of the south and then sometimes turns southwest. And if the front's strong enough, it'll go all the way west and then north. Since we're getting later in the season right now, looking like it'll just be thunderstorms. But as I round the west coast of Cuba, hopefully in about 4 days, the weather looks like it should be out of the south, which will allow me to sail east, follow the Gulf Stream to Florida. Now it's a matter of if the wind stays favorable enough to do that, or if it slows down and I just kind of get caught out there. But yeah, we're just gonna have to find out. The wind's perfect to sail north. I should go really fast north, and then we're just gonna have to figure it out when we get past Cuba.
Okay, I just ran through all of the things I needed to do to get ready to get out of here. Seems like the afternoon wind is starting to pick up, so we're gonna have to pick up anchor here soon. Sail off anchor. I'm not gonna walk you guys through this. I'm just gonna get it done, get out on the ocean. And we're supposed to be in 22 to 30 knots of wind tonight. That could be a little rowdy, so stick around for that. All right, main is up. Now we're gonna just try to time it so we fall off to port. Perfect, anchor's up. At this point, I'm waiting for the boat to build up enough speed over ground so that I can start steering to port and jibe the boat. For those unfamiliar, and to put it simply, jibing is when you turn the boat so that the wind passes from one side of the boat to the other with the wind at your back. As the wind gets almost completely behind me, I pull in on the main sheet. This makes it so that once the wind catches the opposite side of the sail, it has less distance to travel, putting less strain on everything. The slower I make this maneuver, the easier it is on the boat. Jibing accidentally can lead to extensive damage to the boat, and the boom is capable of swinging over with enough force to knock you overboard or even kill you if it were to happen in heavier conditions. Perfect, that was quite easy. See ya! So, it's been about 5 minutes and we're outside of Utilla now, back out in about 80 feet of water. Feeling pretty good. Yeah, once I'm northwest of Cuba, the wind's gonna probably die off. I might end up in some thunderstorms. But we'll see. We'll see how the weather plays out. Alright, it looks like we've sailed far enough out away from Utilla, and I'm gonna tack and hopefully be able to just kind of go straight up this way. Pretty much directly north, and then we'll clear the east side of Utilla.
Tacking is the opposite of jibing. You turn into the wind, and as the wind passes from one side of the boat to the other, you release the working sheet and tighten it on the other one. I'm not going to go into too much more detail than that, but if you guys are interested in any how-to videos, or maybe not necessarily how-to, but rather how I do videos, give me a few ideas by letting me know in the comments. I already plan to make a how I sail on and off the anchor video, so if you're interested in something like that down the road, please consider subscribing.
The nice thing about being on this tack is it's the tack that makes it really easy for me to reef. And this is the tack we're going to be on all the way north, so I can shake out and put in reefs quite easily, and I think I'm going to be doing that a fair amount on this trip. If anybody remembers, on my way to Rio Dulce, or Guatemala, I broke my car for the Traveler. Okay, I just messed up bad. I forgot to tighten up my Traveler, and it just broke. But my friend MT actually brought me a new one, this guy, which was awesome, and this has worked really well. It was pretty much an exact fit. Well, I better get myself comfortable because I'm gonna be on this tack for at least 4 to 5 more days. The wind's slowly starting to pick up. I think in maybe an hour or sooner, I'll throw a reef in the main. And then before sunset, maybe even before that, I'll put a second reef because it's gonna get pretty heavy tonight. looks pretty good. Roatan is out over there. You can just see the silhouette of the island. We're not going very fast. Only 4.5 knots. But it's in the right direction. So I think what's actually happening here is I'm in the leeward side of Roatan, and it must be blocking a little bit of the wind. I'm pretty much directly west of it, so that would make sense. It feels like the wind dropped like at least 5 knots. And the sea state has gotten a lot better. All right, so we've got a bit of an issue. I needed to reef, and I was about to roll the head sail in, and it's jammed. So we're in a bit of a problem. The sun's setting, maybe in an hour. But we're running downwind. The boat seems to handle it okay, and I've had to fix this once before in the last 5 years, and what I needed to do was spool out the entire genoa, and then yeah, resolve the problem. So we're gonna have to put the whole sail out before the wind picks up.
While out at sea, situations like this can easily turn from bad to worse. So if you're faced with something like this for the first time, it's best to take a moment, pause, and think through how to resolve it properly before just jumping into action and potentially breaking something.
All right, now we're relying on the hydro vane to keep me on course. Now that we're going faster downwind, things feel lighter. I'm gonna have to take these 3 screws out and let this freewheel, and so there's no load on the furling unit anymore.
Once I take out the 3 bolts, the sail essentially becomes disconnected from the furling drum. This takes the pressure off the furling line and allows me to spool it out freely without any tension on it. Once I free up the jammed line, I'm able to spool out the rest of it and then coil it all back in evenly. After all the line is spooled back up, I reinstall all the bolts and everything should be good to go.
Okay. Now we're gonna go try to roll it back in. Now we're gonna turn back upwind.
This shot is actually a pretty good example of how turning upwind increases the apparent wind speed. You'll notice how much more the boat heels over and how much rougher everything seems to be.
Right. Quite a bit of wind right now, but the boat feels very happy. I think we might get 5 more knots throughout the night. See those 2 lights? The GoPro can't really pick them up, but those are 2 cruise ships. Wow. I don't know if this is gonna be a long night, but I feel really good right now. I feel like I've eaten enough. I definitely am going to need to try to sleep. But seeing 2 cruise ships on the exact same line as me is kind of frustrating because it means there could be more behind it that end up catching me. The AIS should go off if I ever have anyone close to me, And I usually wake up, or I go up every 45 minutes or so and check on things. Well, we made it through what is likely going to be the roughest night of the passage, I think. And it was pretty rough. I think that was the roughest weather I've ever sailed in. We probably got to about gusts of 30 knots, sustained maybe around 25. Last night, or I guess maybe an hour ago actually, my AIS alarm started going off, and I came up top. Well, I checked it and noticed that whatever it was that was alarming me was very close. So I didn't have time to check what sort of vessel it was. And I came up top and I just seen a single light coming at me, which in the past I've noticed a single light could just be literally the front of a cargo ship. So I tacked really quick and then noticed it was just a catamaran, but it was coming right on my beam, and I don't know, had I not tacked, if we could have been really close, but it was a very close passing in the dark. And those are the types of things that are kind of sketchy solo night sailing, because who knows how many small vessels I've passed in the dark. You can never really see them perfectly. He just had his mast light on, and unless he was paying attention to me, because I don't transmit an AIS signal, it's not super likely he's seen me. Luckily he had AIS and I seen him, but the odds of crossing directly in the path of somebody else out here is not zero, but probably very close to it, and it almost happened last night. So that's something to kind of think about. You know, it's pretty rough when you have some sargassum weed on the high side of the sailboat. We got a ship named Paradero coming right at me. Could pass anywhere from a quarter to 1 mile away or closer, depending on some things. So probably see them here in the next 20 minutes. That's the handy thing about having that AIS. I never used to have it for quite a while. Every commercial vessel legally needs to transmit their information. So while you're out here, any big ships like that can pass you. And the AIS seems to do a pretty good job indicating if you're going to have a collision and giving me a warning. It's a fairly small cargo ship, actually. I don't know if I've passed a cargo ship this close, this far out at sea before. It's calmed down. I think we're seeing maybe 16 to 20 knots probably. Last night we were seeing like 23 to 30 knots. It's double reefed with just like a tiny slab of head sail out. The sun is starting to set as this cargo ship passes me, and we're going to be going into another night. I think the farther north I go, the more stabilized the winds are. It doesn't pick up quite so much at night, and we should have a pretty relaxing sail tonight, which is nice.
As the sun sets on my second night at sea, I crawl into my bunk and get ready for another series of short naps. Night sailing for me turns into a bit of a haze. My mind goes into autopilot, and I find a rhythm between resting and managing Dacia safely. With around 500 nautical miles left to sail, I'm feeling optimistic. Dacia has handled a lot this week, and so have I. If you've enjoyed these episodes, please consider subscribing and tune in next week as I continue through the Caribbean Sea on my way to Florida.